With the world in total chaos, financially, economically, and otherwise, lots of people have been asking me for an update on the housing market, and I am excited. My brokerage actually hired chart masters to prepare an entire deck of data specific to the upstate, covering both Western, Greenville County, Spartanburg, and to look at all the trends that are happening in our market. I'm really excited to share that data with you and what that means for you as a potential buyer or seller here in the upstate of South Carolina. Charts I want to show are actually zoomed out over the past 8 years, showing sales history for real estate in the upstate. The first one just shows sales history, and this is the number of units being sold. And that again follows the annual calendar up and down, slow in the winter, more in the summer. And then they create that trend line for what they expect for ongoing annual sales. As of right now, we're still following that trend. There's been more sales actually this first quarter 2025 than there was in 2024. The other thing I wanted to look at is the median sales price history. So over the last 8 years, you can see that home prices have continually risen with some ups and down variations from that trend line. Right after COVID, the pricing stayed well above the trend line during that time period when people were just going wild, buying everything with cash, and just it was a very historic time for real estate. Now we're seeing that prices are actually staying well below that trend line. Even going into April and into the summer months, normally we would be expecting those prices to be coming back up, but they really haven't. So even though the number of homes selling is increasing, the price for those is not keeping up. And so it's right now, that means a couple things. One, as a seller, it's really important that you have a really good in-depth price analysis before you start selling. And as a buyer, take note of this. Right now we're in a dip. So if you're looking to try to get your first home, I would highly recommend doing that before this stabilizes back out to the trend line. You could get your home below equity. But is it a buyer or a seller's market? Well, as you can see, it is currently a seller's market. That phrasing is based on the amount of inventory. Right now, there's not a lot. Depending on what a buyer looks, they may have to sit and wait for a while to find the right thing. Most of the price ranges there's only 1 to 3 months of inventory. The only price range that shows balanced is over $1 million listings there's about 6 months inventory there, but the majority of housing is low in inventory right now. So that would be considered seller's market. However, check the next couple charts because you'll see that seller's market doesn't necessarily mean that sellers can put higher prices and control everything. Buyers can still really win during a seller's market. Buyers still have a lot of power. So as you can see above, almost a third of the listings that were live in the first quarter failed to sell. For some reason, those homes did not go under contract. It could be something involving repairs or personal issues or something specific. But for it to be so widespread, we can pretty much deduce the main issue is a lot of houses are being overpriced. In this second chart, you'll see further proof of that. If we look at 100 of the listings, the 28 of them, like I said, completely failed, never sold, likely due to overpricing. Of the 72 that did sell, another half of those sat on the market for over 100 days, ended up having to do, half of them had price reduction. Only about 13% of homes were accurately priced in Q1. So what that tells me is, one, if you're a buyer, right now is a really great time to get out there and look at homes and be willing to put in offers, even some that are below market. Sellers may be interested in your offers. This may be a great time to get a first home and actually get in there with some equity. As a seller, it's really important that you price it correctly from the beginning. Once you've gone on the market and you've sat there for 30, 60 days, even with price drops, you're going to take a lot longer for this to close. And often it's selling for less than the price you could have had if it priced correctly from day one. Another important thing to talk about is seller concessions. This has been a topic of a lot of conversation. There are some sellers who immediately are like, no, I'm not doing any of that. It's the buyer's job. But it is important to know the norm and what's happening. Seller paid closing costs have been increasing for years. And the reason being, as home prices have gone up, it has become increasingly difficult for buyers to afford their down payment, their closing costs, and everything without having any equity from a home to put towards it. And so while older buyers have been able to use their home's equity as the step towards their next home. First time buyers right now are really needing more of that seller concession and help on closing costs. So the first chart that I have above shows the seller concessions amount paid by dollar, and that ranges drastically from one deal to the next. You can see somewhat dependent upon the price range of your home, but as you can see in the next one, seller paid closing costs by percentage. The lower price homes very often have a larger percentage that need that support. So if you're selling, it would be really smart as part of that initial pricing conversation to consider how much you can put towards a seller's closing costs. How much can you offer in concessions to make sure more buyers are in the funnel of potential buyers for your home? Doing so is going to help you get a higher sales price in the end. If some of that sounds like gibberish and it's getting confusing, let's talk. If we look at your specific numbers, I'm happy to explain and answer questions about pricing strategy for selling your home. But with all of this information, I do want to emphasize the market's not slowing down. From 2024 to 2025, year over year, comparing quarter 1, we see there was 8.5% more sales. So there's a lot more quantity. There's a lot of sales happening right now. It's just taking them a little bit longer, and they're for a little lower price. Quarter 1 of 24 to quarter 1 of 25 comparison, the sales price has only risen by about 1%, while there was 8% more units. So sellers market with the caveat that sellers are having to be more negotiable. They're having to lower their prices. They're having to be open to sitting on market and being a little more patient, and then also to offering more concessions and help for those buyers. If you're looking to buy or sell, let's talk.